Throughout our lives, we encounter countless people. Studies show that over the course of a lifetime, we get to know more than 5,000 people. People whose faces we recognize and whose names we can remember. Yet, only a small fraction of them remain truly present in our lives. Why do some people leave deep marks on us, while others disappear almost unnoticed? Every person we meet leaves an impression on us, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. Some people inspire us, others teach us something, some become friends, and in certain cases we fall in love, enter a relationship and even start a family. These are the people with whom we feel safe, the one we want to spend our time with. But not every encounter is positive. Over the years we also meet people who hurt us, disappoint us, or even intentionally want to cause us harm. We encounter them as early as childhood. People we don't harmonize with. People we would rather keep our distance from. Almost everyone knows them. The teacher who treated us unfairly. Co-worker who drains our energy every single day and whom nobody really likes. The boss who belittles us. Such encounters leave scars, sometimes visible, often invisible. Today we live in a world that is more connected than ever before. We don't only meet people in real life, but also online. This can have advantages. We find new friends, we fall in love through dating apps, we get inspired by videos, podcasts and stories. But this constant connection also comes at a price. We are always reachable, we barely find time to rest, we constantly compare ourselves to others, and we are exposed to attacks often anonymously. At the same time, we are confronted daily with negative news. War, suffering, misery, hate. Negative headlines dominate the news because they usually sell better. When we absorb all of this day after day, it is hardly surprising that we begin to doubt people and the world. It seems as if human beings cannot live in harmony with one another. When we repeatedly see the worst in people and have also been hurt ourselves, we withdraw. We build walls around ourselves, not because we don't want other people in our lives, but because we want to protect ourselves. Yet, these walls don't just keep pain away, they also keep out closeness, love, trust and new opportunities. And yet, as human beings, we depend on one another. We need connection, we need trust, we need each other. No matter how much we have been hurt, a life without closeness is not a fulfilled life. True courage does not lie in letting no one get close to you anymore. True courage lies in trusting others despite everything. This video is about how we can learn not to close our hearts despite negative experiences, how we can regain trust, and how it is possible to open ourselves up to other people again. Because in the end, it is not fear that determines our lives, but the decision to love others anyway. When we encounter people who trigger negative emotions in us, we begin to form an opinion about them. We convince ourselves that the person is an enemy, someone who wants to harm us and cannot be trusted. We create roles in which we are the victim and the other person is the perpetrator. Of course, there are people who truly do not wish us well. In such cases, it might be the best opinion, if possible, to avoid contact with them. Depending on how much suffering another person causes us, we begin to mentally transform them into a kind of monster. We start to interpret things into their behavior that may not even be real. For example, we claim that the other person only wants bad things for us, and as a result we begin directing resentment and anger toward them. This process grows over time until it becomes too large to ignore. In the worst case, we lose control of our emotions. We have an outburst of anger, become insulting, or in extreme situations, some people even resort to physical violence. The problem is that our anger does not only harm our supposed enemies, it also harms ourselves. It is easy to hate another person and feel morally superior in the process. Yet, the way we treat others ultimately only reflects what we think of ourselves. In the end, we all are human beings. No matter how different we are or how much we believe we are better or worse than someone else, far more connects us than separates us. We often jump to premature conclusions about other people in our lives, even if we don't notice it or don't like to admit it to ourselves. We too are flawed. How often do we meet people who initially seemed strange or unfriendly, but later turned out to be kind or likable? The first step is recognizing and acknowledging our own prejudices. It is always easier to point a finger at others than to extend a hand to them. Closing ourselves off may seem necessary or feel right at first, but in inside we may be shutting doors that could have opened up new opportunities for us. We are all human beings. This connects us more than it divides us. When we hate another person, in the end we are only hating ourselves. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once describes how we suppress the traits we find unpleasant in ourselves and instead see them in others. In other words, we perceive the negative qualities in another person because we do not want to acknowledge them within ourselves. So if we dislike a person because, for example, they are arrogant, we tell ourselves, I don't like this person because they are arrogant. By doing so, we claim that the other person is more arrogant than we are. Even if that were true, it does not mean that we ourselves do not carry a certain degree of arrogance within us. This may be perceived by someone else who might then consider us arrogant as well. We must understand this. When another person displays negative behavior toward us, we can counter it by remaining calm and admitting that we too have flaws that we consciously or unconsciously project onto others. To someone else, we are the other. For many people, it is difficult to admit that in certain situations they were the ones who caused harm to someone else. So what can we do to cope with difficult people in real life? Fundamentally, insight is always the first step. Admitting to ourselves that we also carry traits that may be unpleasant to others allows us to judge others less harshly. We can remain calm and not take personally what others think or say about us. Of course, it is important to set boundaries. Sometimes it is necessary to stand up for ourselves when we are treated unfairly. But we can do this without becoming personal or emotional. Those who know their own self-worth neither need to justify themselves nor allow others to provoke them. Another method is forgiveness. When we lose control of our emotions and others exploit this, we mentally turn ourselves into a victim and the other person into a perpetrator. Through forgiveness, we can free ourselves from this mental state and stop feeling sorry for ourselves. A bully bullies others to provoke a reaction. If the bullied person does not react, the bully often stops on their own. Through forgiveness, we no longer dehumanize the other person and gain the ability to show understanding. In the end, every perpetrator is also a victim of their own insecurities or negative experiences from the past. We humans are like mirrors. This has advantages and disadvantages. When a person we find difficult behaves badly, this behavior can also trigger similar reactions within us. That is why it is important to break the cycle and not maneuver ourselves into a vicious circle. Deep down, we all long to be respected and accepted. We all strive for happiness and love in this world. When others treat us unfairly, we can respond with calmness and composure instead of acting impulsively. If we want others to treat us well, we should lead by example and take the first step. The key to a happy and loving coexistence is to share these qualities ourselves. When we give love, we often receive it in return. We should admit that we are not perfect and be lenient with others. We can build trust without judging another person. Perhaps the best approach is to treat others the way we would like to be treated ourselves. Even if we encounter someone for whom this seems ineffective, we always have the choice to decide how we respond. Someone who knows their own worth can never be diminished by another person. In the end, we cannot control how others behave, but we can always choose how we respond. And sometimes choosing understanding over anger is the bravest step toward a more peaceful and connected life.